Welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast, your free weekly resource to make you a better fitness business leader. I'm JT, the boss of Active Management, and I'm pumped with the rest of the Active Management team to be the premier sponsor again in 2017. Doing this helps us achieve our why in business, which is to reduce the healthcare costs across the globe, so we love supporting it. Between you and us, we can get more people moving and more often. So let's get our hustle mode on. No matter where you are listening in the world, make sure you check out www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/active for an extra special business resource to free up time for you so that you can then do what you love. Okay, enough from me. Who's on this week's show, Chantel?
Hey Tribe, thank you so much, JT. Welcome everyone to a seriously jam-packed show. So jam-packed, in fact, that I found it difficult to name this week's episode because there was so much great content from our special guest. So let's start off by me telling you who that is. Our guest this week is Luke Carlson. He's the founder and CEO of Discover Strength based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Here's a bit of a taste of what you're going to hear this week. I talked to Luke about the importance of having a clear core purpose and core values for your business. He explains why it's so important to understand what truly makes you different as a club, and he outlines an exercise that you can do before you do any marketing for your business. His business, Discover Health, guarantee a 5-star customer service. So we discuss what that means and how they guarantee it. Right at the very start of the show, I love the systems and the rituals that Luke does to stay on top of his busy workload. So take a listen out for that. And plus, listen up for just how much and how often Luke reads. I think you're going to be pretty inspired to pick up a book straight after the show. All of that is coming up in just a minute, and later on, I also catch up with Lynn Nieto from Augie's Quest. We are only a couple of weeks away now from URSA and the Augie's Bash event for 2017. So Lynn is dropping in to tell us a little bit more about this year's event. Now, speaking of URSA, I am on my way to LA very, very soon. So if you are coming along to the conference or to the trade show, I would love to meet as many of you as possible. You can hit me up on email at any time, which is chantal@fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, and love to know if you're coming along, and I hope to see lots of you there. Now, before we get started on this week's main interview, here's a quick word from one of our wonderful sponsors. ABC Financial leads the health and fitness industry in software and payment processing solutions. If you want your business to thrive with the most advanced club management software, comprehensive payment processing, and customer service that is second to none, choose ABC Financial. Request a demo at www.abcfinancial.com. This week's flashback show is show 58, when Lisa Simone Richard joined us to talk about how to get your fitness brand in the media. It's a great show with Lisa Simone. So if you missed that show, go back and check it out. That is show 58, and you can find it on iTunes or at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. As I mentioned earlier, Luke Carlson is the founder and CEO of Discover Strength, whose personal training facilities are amongst the highest volume and highest revenue training facilities in the US. Luke is a sought-after speaker to businesses and leaders in a variety of industries. He's also an ACSM Certified Exercise Physiologist and has a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Science in Kinesiology from the University of Minnesota. Tribe, I hope you enjoy my interview with Luke Carlson. Luke, can we start today by you sharing 3 apps, systems, or rituals that you use to stay on top of your workload?
Absolutely. Great question. So I have a few of them. The first one is a very, very simple. We're starting very basic, and that's we use the app Slack. So we really have no email internally as an organization. We're only using Slack for all of our internal communication, and we have various Slack channels set up so I can communicate with our leadership team. I can communicate with the whole organization with a quick, essentially text message via Slack. So that's number one. Number two, a system, I would say, is the use of an executive assistant. So my executive assistant is Lucia, and she really runs my life and my work life. And I'm able to focus on what we call delegate and elevate. So I'm delegating the work that I should not be doing, and I'm elevating myself to working on the work that I should be working on. So I elevate myself to what we would call unique ability. I'm working on the things that I was probably genetically encoded to do. So that's number 2, the effective use of an executive assistant. So number 3 is that I have a regimented approach to reading. So I read 30 minutes Monday through Friday every day, and I read for 3 hours every Saturday, 2 hours around leadership and management topics, and 1 hour around the exercise science or the peer-reviewed journals around resistance training or strength training. So I keep that habit so that I'm constantly forced to move through about a book every 2 weeks, and I'm not forced to move so quickly that I'm not really absorbing the books. I can highlight and take good notes on the books and really use the reading as a chance to learn rather than and go a little bit deeper rather than just skim the material. So that would be another one of the rituals or systems. And then the last one, and by far the most important, is the right meetings throughout the week. And I think the most powerful meeting is our 90-minute, what we call as a level 10 meeting with our leadership team. So it's 4 people on Fridays for 90 minutes where we have a real structured agenda. And that one meeting has really driven the whole organization forward over the last 3 years. So when I speak, I do a lot of speaking about what the format of that meeting looks like. And we have leaders of all different industries that will come and take a look at us running that meeting because the meeting has been so powerful for us. So that one meeting each week really drives the performance of the organization.
And Luke, the other one that I wanted to touch on is one that you mentioned last week in last week's show, the Pre-Call Quick Fire 5. And that was, I think you called it like a quiet time or an escape where you basically switch off social media and you go with a blank canvas. Do you want to just mention that one again for us?
Chantel, absolutely. We call that a clarity break, and we make it mandatory for all of our leaders and managers. And so I do a clarity break, 1 hour, 1 day per week. So it's outside of the office. I have a specific coffee shop that I like to go to for it. And there's no technology, no computer, no phone. It's just a blank notebook that I use. And you start off by just staring at the notebook with your pen in hand, and you start to think about the issues facing the organization. And you start to think about your long-term vision. You start to think about your mid-range goals and your next 1 year goal. And then you start thinking about the quarterly objectives that you have, the focuses that you have in the next 90 days. And you look at those goals and you look at the issues that the organization is facing, and you start to ideate and take notes and sketch out your ideas. And I do that once per week for 1 hour, and it's not focused on doing any work or working in the business, so to speak. It's just working on the business and taking the time to think. And for me, it's my way to make sure that I am thinking on the business around the pressing issues and the direction of the organization going forward. And it's a tool that we've taught to all of our managers and leaders.
It's definitely something, and a number of different points that you just made there that I think we can take away and look at implementing ourselves. Now, do you want to tell us a little bit about your business, Discover Strength?
Absolutely. So Discover Strength is a small chain of personal training only studios. So when I say studio, our smallest location is about 1,600 square feet. So I can't convert that to meters, but it's very small. And our largest is about 4,000 square feet. We focus on really just one thing. We do one-on-one and what we call small group, but really it's more like partner training. It's 2 to 3 clients working with one trainer. And we focus just on strength training. So there's no other exercise, there's no other services. It is just strength training. And we're in our 11th year of business, and we operate in the Twin Cities market in Minneapolis area in Minnesota in the U.S.
Now, Luke, on your website, and you have a fascinating website, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this, but one of the sections that you have on there, which you're very, very clear about, is your core purpose and your core values. Do you want to tell us how you and your team live out that core purpose and core values every day?
Absolutely. Well, to start off with the core purpose, I think a lot of companies get the core purpose wrong. I mean, really, the core purpose for us is the overarching, why do we exist? And you got to dial it in and ask that question 4, 5, 6 times. Why? And when you get deep enough, you realize you're not talking about improving someone's strength or their fitness or their body composition. You're getting a little bit deeper and you're understanding why the organization truly exists. And Disney, for example, is make people happy. For us, it was never stop improving. It was implicit in our very DNA that everything we did on an individual level, team level, organizational level, we were turned on by the idea that you could be better tomorrow than you were today. As a team, you could grow next quarter from what you accomplished this quarter. As an organization, we maybe have really had an impressive last decade of business, but we are just getting started for what we can what we can accomplish in the future. So this idea of never stop improving or living life in crescendo is what spoke to us as an organization. So that's our overarching core purpose. It has nothing to do with the industry we're in. It has more to do with how we are hardwired as human beings. Now, how do we live that each day? We have human systems built into the business that are encouraging all of us to improve in every aspect. If you ask our newest employees, they'll say you can't help, but when you're a part of this culture, you can't help but strive to improve, whether it's in your personal life, your professional life, or striving to achieve the stated goals that the organization has for you individually or as a team. So everything we do comes back to this overarching umbrella of never stop improving. Man, if that doesn't turn you on, you just can't work at Discover Strength. You wouldn't want to work at Discover Strength. That's what has to turn you on as a human being. It's implicit in our staff. It's implicit in the very reason the client wants to interact with the brand, because they know that every time you came to Discover Strength 6 months ago and you haven't been back since then, where do you go now? Things are different. Things have changed. They've been working on their craft over there. Things are constantly improving. And that's very much in my DNA. So that's how we bring that to life and talk about that.
I think it's so interesting that you say that, and it makes me wonder that when someone comes in for an interview to be a part of your team, what is it that you're looking for in that person to, I guess, satisfy you that they're going to be able to take that on board and represent that in your business?
That's a brilliant question. And the first thing we do in the very first interview is we tell them, this is our core purpose and these are our core values. And when it comes down to it, you know you better than I know you. And you know you better than I'm going to know you even after we interview you 4 times. So that first interview is me talking with intimate detail about what that purpose means and what those core values mean. And then we tell that person, you have 48 hours to decide whether or not you think your values align with our values and your very purpose aligns with our purpose. And we say that if ultimately it doesn't, we're going to find that out very quickly, either in this interview process or when you get started with us. You're not going to be comfortable in our culture. In the words of Jim Collins, you're going to be ejected like a virus because you're not going to fit in. And we tell them up front, you are going to be happier and more engaged when you work at a company where you're aligned with purpose and values. So the first thing we do is we say, hey, your filter is the best equipped to understand whether or not this is a good fit for you. And so we have a lot of people that will self-eliminate right there, and they only self-eliminate because we're able to talk about that purpose and those 4 core values in such intimate detail where we can almost scare people away, which is really the idea. Patrick Lencioni says, done correctly, core values inflict pain, and you have to be willing to make difficult decisions around them. And so we think that's a great way to screen people in the beginning. Now, of course, all of our interview questions, or a high percentage of our interview questions, get to the idea, is someone truly interested in this process of improvement?
Now, I interrupted you earlier, and I think you were about to talk more about those core values. Do you want to go on with that?
Of course. We have 4 core values. established about a year before the company even opened. So I sat down after reading Jim Collins and the Harvard Business Review article that he wrote and thought it through. And we have 4 of them. The first one's what we call learning. And so learning means exactly what it sounds like. It's picking up a book and reading. It's an academic environment. It is going and visiting a colleague. Like I'm about a 3.5-hour flight from Florida, and I flew down here to Florida. I have a couple speaking gigs here, and I drove the 2 hours this morning to Gainesville Health and Fitness to be able to spend some time with some of their staff and sit in on some meetings and watch them work and just take notes and learn from them. So to us, learning can take on a lot of different manifestations. So that's the first one, is in your very DNA, do you like to learn? Now, number 2 is what we call servant leadership. So servant leadership means we exist to help somebody else be successful. The servant leader exists to help somebody else win. Whether it's in our job description or not, I look at another human being, whether it's a direct report, whether it's a customer, whoever it is, and I want to help them to be successful. All right, so that's what servant leadership is we lead other people by serving them first. Now, number 3, and by the way, that concept is also very foundational in our overall approach to customer service and our vision for customer service. Now, number 3, we call that core value creating our own future. And really this comes from Viktor Frankl in the book Man's Search for Meaning in its deepest sense. And what it means in the deepest level is that it's not what happens to us that's important. It's how we respond to what happens to us. So there's stimulus, what happens to me, and then response, meaning what I've chosen to do about it. But in between, there's a space. And in that space lies all of our freedom as a human being. It's in our best interest to try to grow and nurture that space so that we can continue to respond appropriately or effectively to whatever happens to us in life. So creating our own future means as an individual, I will never act like a victim. So we always talk about this organizationally. If your supervisor comes down on you, we use something we call a 3-strike system. If you get a strike, and you don't make excuses about it, you own up to it and said, I did not do what I was supposed to do, and I'm going to improve. And that's the most powerful position that you can take as a performer, is you can take responsibility for maybe what you didn't do correctly or effectively or as well as you potentially could. So creating our own future as a core value applies to the individual, but also applies to the organization. That if we want to become an organization of a certain scope and size and culture, it's not going to be because of the economy or the environment that we operate in. It's going to be because we decide to make it happen. And if you don't have that approach, then you're assuming the approach of a victim. And I think that's no way to live. So that's our 3rd core value. Our last core value is what we call science-based. It just means that everything we do from an exercise standpoint will never be fad-driven. It'll be the product of whatever the preponderance of scientific literature says about exercise. So we don't really have an approach to exercise. We don't have a franchise system to exercise. We're just going to constantly pore over what the peer-reviewed research says, and then we'll apply that. So those 4 core values: learning, servant leadership, creating our own future, and science-based or science-based innovation.
Luke, you mentioned earlier when we were talking about habits and you were talking about your reading, I think on a Saturday you said that you did 2 hours of business-based reading and then 1 hour of more of the exercise side of things, which I assume then fits into that 4th core value of making sure that you're staying up to date with the latest industry research and what's happening in the market. With that particular one, do you require your team to also do that hour or more of learning on the new exercises, new techniques, new science-based research that is coming out?
That's a brilliant question. So what we do is every Monday, one scientific journal article gets sent out via Slack to all of our personal trainers, all of our locations. So I pick it, I send it out on Monday morning, and then on Tuesday in their staff meetings, they will discuss that article. So we call that system, we call it Project Learn. And we've done this for 10 years. So we send out that one journal article Monday, people read it, and then we have a great discussion about it Tuesday. And we talk about, number one, what did we learn? And number two, how can we apply it to our clients and teach it to our clients? So Chantel, if you think about that, if we do one article per week, 52 weeks in the year, we miss a week here and there because we have something else going on, we're probably studying and discussing and debating 47, 48 journal articles every single year. I mean, that is a lot. I know very few academics that are really studying and discussing that much scientific research.
That's a great
system. So to answer your question, yeah, absolutely.
Excellent system. Okay, I'm hoping that we can talk a little bit about how you actually go about marketing and promoting the business, Luke. Can you give us a bit of an insight into what you do to market your business as opposed to maybe other fitness facilities that you see?
Chantel, I think what it starts down to is, or what it starts with and what it comes down to is the word focus. So almost every presentation I've ever heard about marketing starts with what's the marketing vehicle? What is the vehicle for how, or the mechanism for how we're going to communicate and tell the story? You know, what's the platform? Are we doing a social media dark post? Are we doing some type of direct mail campaign? Are we doing some type of email campaign? Is it something internal? And I think that's the wrong place to start. I think that is not the most important component. I think so many leaders in our industry, and so many industries, the thing they're missing is what you're actually supposed to market, what you're supposed to tell stories around. And what you're supposed to tell stories around is your differentiators. So we use the terminology uniques. We would say that every company, and this is what we do, is we've identified 3 things that make us different than all of our competitors. They don't make us better, they make us different. And I'm not picking on our industry because I think a lot of industries struggle with this, but I have yet in my life approached an industry leader and asked them, what makes your club different? Or they've actually provided me a single thing that makes them different. They always provide me something that they think makes them better. Well, the consumer can't measure better. Better is not palpable to the consumer. It has to be different. It has to, on paper, be different. It can't be controversial. So most people, I'm in an industry conference and I say, what makes you different? And the first hand that goes up, they'll say, well, we have a great staff. I say, okay, raise your hand if you think that you don't have a great staff. And no hand goes up. I mean, every company, every leader has or thinks they have a great staff. So we can't compete on a great staff. We can't compete on great service. We can't compete on great programs. Every club that I've ever been into and every club owner and manager I've talked to says we have all of these things. So what actually makes you different? And so I think that's where the real marketing work starts with, is what are your true strategic anchors? And this is really the meshing of the strategy and marketing. It's understanding fundamentally what are the 3 things that make the organization different from competitors. Now, that can change over time as the market changes and new competitors emerge. The things that will keep you or make you different will change over time, but you have to have 3 things that on paper are making you different than your competitors, because the consumer is purchasing your difference, not your excellence. And we struggle with that. I think every industry struggles with it, but I think fitness struggles with it more. And I think those who are passionate about learning and attending conferences and learning best practices are maybe even the most guilty of this, because what do we do, Chantel? We go to a conference and we learn what other successful clubs are doing, and we start doing that. And instead of differentiating ourselves and becoming unique in the eyes of the consumer, we're basically collapsing into each other and we're all the same. In our very efforts to compete, we've actually become more alike, and we've rendered competition and differentiation meaningless. So that's where I would say you have to start. You have to start on paper, identifying what are the 3 things that make us different. And then that is your filter. You do not put out a single marketing message of any kind that is not only communicating around one of those three things. You do not tell stories on any platforms that are not stories around one of those three uniques or differentiators. And I would say that when a company does that, it will absolutely change all of the marketing results when we only start storytelling around what actually makes us unique.
Luke, to put that into perspective, can you tell us in 2017, what are those three things for you currently for Discover Strength?
Yeah, I can. So for us, one of them is what we call strength training focus. So we are only going to do strength training. You cannot come into one of our locations and do a spin class. We're not going to stretch. We're not going to do any cardio. We're not going to talk about nutrition at all. We're never, ever going to use TRX. We are not going to do yoga. We're not going to do Pilates. We are only going to strength train. And we have absolutely no competitors in our market who will only do strength training with you. And so that makes us different. Now, that doesn't make us better. We never once said strength training is the most important exercise in the world. Okay. I happen to maybe think it is, but we're not saying that. We're just saying that it's the only thing that we're going to do. So that makes us different than all of our competitors. The next one is what we call educated expert instructors. So what that means is our personal trainers are educated experts. Doesn't mean they're better. We would never say that our trainers are better because you can't measure that. But we can say is on paper, our trainers are going to have more degrees, okay, more academic credentials than any other trainers in the industry, okay, anywhere in the world. That's our guarantee. You will never come across a trainer that's read more scientific literature and has a stronger academic background. Now, again, I'm not saying our trainers are good. I'm just saying that is our unique. That's our differentiator, that they are educated experts. All right. That may mean that they're boring or they're not high energy or they have very poor interpersonal skills. By the way, I don't think that's true, but that is our actual unique. Now, the third unique is what we call efficient. Our workouts are 30 minutes long and we only want someone to come to see us 2 times per week. So overall, we will only allow you to be in our facility for an hour per week, and that is it. So it's a very time-efficient approach. Now, again, I didn't say that our workouts are better. I just said they're more efficient. So on paper, all these things are true. Like our biggest competitors would say, yeah, absolutely, all three of those things were true. No one's debating those things. So those are our three differentiators. We call them the three uniques that we build all of our messaging around.
Thank you so much for sharing those, Luke. Now, in there, you talked about your personal trainers and Tribe. If you go and check out the Discover Strength website and you go to the About Us page, you're going to see something very, very interesting because in their photos, your trainers aren't wearing a T-shirt or they're not wearing their singlet or a polo. What are they wearing, Luke?
All of our trainers will wear a shirt and tie. All of our males will wear a shirt and tie, and the females will wear, I guess, the female equivalent to that. So they'll dress professionally. They'll dress really smart. They'll wear a dress shirt, a really nice sweater, slacks, etc. The only thing that's not dressy on the women, on the females, is they wear a flat. They don't wear a heel of any kind because it's just not practical. They'll wear a flat on the floor, but otherwise our men will have a shirt and tie on and belt and dress shoes and slacks and so forth.
And they train their clients in that clothing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
And what's the theory behind that?
Yeah, so that's another one of our differentiators. We wanted to be different. We said, okay, every trainer that I've ever seen in any training environment wears something in the continuum of shorts and a T-shirt, so really athletic attire, to the most professional attire would be a pair of slacks and like a polo shirt. And I said, everyone's doing that. Everyone's doing something in that range. And I think we could look good doing that. Like I would love to wear some great Lululemon or some Nike or whatever, some athletic attire. That would look good, but it wouldn't look different. And our goal is to be different. And we wanted to build that brand touch point to really fit with our uniques. And our unique is that you're going to interact with an educated expert. And so in my estimation, an educated expert is synonymous with professional attire or wearing a shirt and tie. I mean, the attorney that I work with wears a shirt and tie, and the physician that I just went to see dresses professionally. And so And so we wanted to carry that out in our training environment, that we wanted to, when the consumer walked in the door, they said, wow, something's different here. And let me tell you, Chantel, when we opened our first location, it was not an impressive location in terms of the retail space. It was not a beautiful space. I mean, we had great equipment and so forth. But when people walked in, their eyes went to the fact they have never seen trainers with shirts and ties on. And now it's very much a part of our culture. It's a very much part of our brand. When people in the community talk about Discover Strength, or when they hear about Discover Strength, one of the very first things they say is, oh, that's the place where they wear ties. So we create a tremendous word of mouth around the brand. Now, I'm being completely honest with you. I understand that you can give someone an absolutely tremendous workout and absolutely stellar customer service and customer experience in your pajamas. You do not have to wear a shirt and tie, but it's been very much a brand decision for us that we will always wear a shirt and tie. Now, part of our commitment from a customer service standpoint is our vision is to be the best customer service company in the world. That's our vision. And so we've been inspired by companies like the Ritz-Carlton, and we believe that when you dress professionally, you are communicating to the customer that I got ready for you today. I got ready for you. I paid attention to the details. My collar is perfect. The tie is tied perfect. I have cufflinks on. I got ready for you today, and you are worth my time and preparation of all of these details. So we think from a customer service standpoint, that's important. But it's a brand statement overall, Chantel.
Let's talk a little bit more about that customer service experience, because in your core values, you mentioned that servant leadership was, I think it was your third core value. And when you go onto your website, it says that you guarantee, you personally, there's a photo of you on there that says you personally guarantee 5-star service experience for members that are coming into the gym. So do you want to talk to us a little bit more about that? How, I think you've set the scene as far as that delivery piece goes. How do you ensure that consistency? And I guess, does it ever happen that someone doesn't experience that? And then how do you handle that situation?
Yeah, so those are great questions. So first of all, I was very much inspired by this overarching vision of becoming the best customer service company in the world. And I love the Ritz-Carlton and I love Nordstrom. I think those are two great customer service leaders. And I read all about the Nordstrom and the Ritz-Carlton and so forth. But to me, I like working out. I like exercise better than I like hotels. So I thought, why can't we build a brand? Why can't we build a company that's built around customer service that just happens to be in the world of exercise? I mean, I think working out is much cooler than a hotel. So that's the focus. That's where it comes from. Now, how do we deliver it? We deliver it around 3 things. So number 1, we have what we call customer service pillars. There's just 3 of them. Our overarching way of thinking about the customer. And I'll give you one of those, for example. Treat every customer not like a customer, but like a friend and a partner. So the idea is we're not trying to be friendly with them necessarily. Of course we are. But the idea is it's a partnership. For us to be successful, they have to be successful. And so our whole mindset is always, this is my friend. How would I handle the situation with my friend or truly a partner, a business partner? So that's one of those overarching pillars. Another pillar is be the best part of the client's day. So really, in terms of let's say interaction at the front desk, we call our front desk staff concierge. How they deal with a customer at the front desk in a difficult situation is going to be very much guided by the overarching pillar that we have to be the best part of the client's day. So when an employee asks, did I handle this right? We'll go back to those 3 pillars. And then after the pillars, we have what we call the signature 6. And I recommend all fitness businesses do this. These are the 6 things that we should visually see happen from our staff in every one of our locations. There's 6 things that should happen over and over and over. And if those 6 things are executed perfectly every single time that they interact with a customer, we will truly become the best customer service company in the world. So we just had to spend some time deciding what those 6 things were. We knew it couldn't be 25 things. It had to be 6 things that you just knew and you were doing all the time. And I'll tell you, if you walk into any of our locations, you'll see those things. One of those, for example, is what we call the professional greeting. So the professional greeting means smile, aim your smile, introduce yourself first, shake hands like you mean it, and then proceed with the conversation. What it really means is the second any human walks in the door of our facility, when you walk by any of our staff, we are going to walk right up to you and we're going to introduce ourselves first by smiling, aiming our smile, introduce ourselves first, and then shake hands. It doesn't matter if you're delivering the mail, if you're a client that's coming in for their first appointment, or anything in between. You cannot be around our staff. You can't walk by one of our staff without them walking up to you and doing that. And for 10 years straight, 52 weeks out of the year at our meetings, our weekly meeting, we rehearse, we role play how to shake someone's hand and introduce yourself. We do it over and over and over. So that's one of our signature 6, is we want to be the best at introducing ourselves and greeting someone. So we just pick 6 things that we think have to be done all of the time. And that's one of those 6. And then lastly is what we call customer service focuses. So we have about 15 elements, 15 foundational tenets that we think we need to educate all of our staff about. So we just take one per week, and in our daily huddles, we talk about that one element. So one of those elements will be discussed in the huddle, and then we talk about, in the last 7 days, how did you live that specific customer service tenet, that foundational piece of customer service information. So one of them, for example, is surgically clean facility. So the foundation of great customer service is a surgically clean facility. So we'll go around and say, last 7 days, how did you live this? I'll tell you right now, I'm at Gainesville Health and Fitness, and I know you know Adrian, general manager here. I watched him execute a surgically clean facility at Gainesville. There's a small little dust ball on the floor, and he jogged away from me 3 steps and picked it up and went to a wastebasket to throw away. And so that would be an example of how he's lived it in the last 7 days. So all of those things combined are the focus. We call it the service excellence plan of how we want to deliver that legendary customer service or become the best customer service company in the world. And we want our customer to expect that. We say, hey, we want to be 5-star. We want to be on the same level of the hotels that you go to and the places you shop and the salons you go to. And the second we fall from that 5-star level, you let me know, and we're going to make it right to you. And we always will listen. I mean, if someone has any type of issue or complaint, we're going to go out of our way to make it right to them in that regard.
Luke, thank you so much for sharing that. And Tribe, Adrian Antigua, who Luke just referenced there, did an interview with us pretty much 12 months ago now. I think it was around March last year. And we spoke about small group training in clubs. And Adrian is an absolute expert when it comes to that. And he did a fantastic interview. So if you missed that, make sure you go back and check it out. I'll put the show in the show notes for this week so you guys can click on that link and have a listen to that one. In just a second, Luke is going to talk to us about his upcoming presentations at URSA and Philex. But first, here's a quick word from one of our fantastic sponsors, Precor. Tribe, if you haven't explored a functional training space for your gym, then now is the time. With Queenex Functional Training by Precor, there is a unit to fit every space. Plus, education is included to ensure that training is delivered with confidence. You need to jump online and check this out right now. Go to precor.com/fitness business podcast. Now let's go back to Luke as he tells us about what he's presenting at URSA 2017.
Chantel, I'm so excited for URSA. I'm speaking on the truth around employee engagement. So that's a buzzword that everybody talks about. We need better engagement, and employee engagement matters. But I want to try to really distill what that means. So if you have an engaged work atmosphere, what are the actual benefits of that? And then how do you do it? I mean, what is step number 1, 2, 3 to create a staff, to create a team that is truly highly engaged? It's a topic I'm insanely passionate about. It's the first time I've spoken on it at any conference. So this will be the first time that I've given this particular presentation.
Well, I'm excited. I'm going to try and make sure that I get along to hear that session. And just recently, we had Ryan Hogan, the CEO of Australian Fitness Network, on the show, and he was telling us all about Philex, which is our fitness convention here in Australia. And of course, your name came up because I think you are coming back due to popular demand from last year. So tell us about what your topic is for Philex this year.
Well, I think I'm speaking. I got to look at this. And I know I'm speaking a number of times. Philex last year was just an amazing experience, such an engaged audience. It was absolutely fantastic. a couple of my topics here. So I know one of them is going to be on visionary leadership. I talk about how does the leader really chart the course, the long-term direction of the organization, and more importantly, how do they inspire this shared vision with the entire organization so everyone's rowing in the same direction. I'm going to talk about employee engagement in Filex or at Filex. I'm going to talk about getting the right people on the bus. What's our comprehensive plan for making great people decisions? So Chantel, I believe that if you have great people, you'll eventually build a great company. And I also believe that it's pretty much impossible to build a great organization without great people. And so the who decisions we make are much more important than the what decisions. So I'm going to talk about that. And then I'm going to talk about the secret, or I think the really secret to organizational success in our industry and so many industries, and that's how to run great meetings. So I'm going to talk about what I think that meeting format should be. And I truly believe, Chantel, that is on paper the most boring topic that anyone's ever spoke about. But when people hear it, they say this will have the absolute greatest impact on my business.
Absolutely. And I think after they've heard your interview today, I think people will be definitely booking in to check out those sessions. So, Luke, I want to thank you so much. There is so much more that I would love to talk to you about, but you have already given us an incredible amount of information. You have shared your experience with us. We are so, so grateful. I know that you are a very high demand speaker across the globe now. So we here at the Fitness Business Podcast are so grateful for you coming on today and sharing so many takeaways. And that's what I loved about today's show, is that there are so many things that we can learn from what you've implemented into your business, and we can take those lessons and hopefully make our businesses better and help grow our fitness businesses. So, Luke Carlson, thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
It was my pleasure, Chantel. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you at both URSA and at Filex.
You too. I can't wait.
Thank you so much.
Pre-Core Quickfire 5.
Tribe, I'd like to introduce you to Scott Rawcliffe. Scott will be joining us next week to talk about the power of Facebook marketing. But today, he's here for the Pre-Core Quickfire 5. And I started off by asking him the question, why do you do what you do?
Well, it's because I was in fitness, and I've been in fitness all my life. And you know what? A lot of us suck at marketing. And I just saw, you know what? I can help a lot more fitness professionals if I, help them with this than teach them a brand new core exercise.
And what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Just put yourself out there. Don't be afraid. Put yourself out there, and that's how you learn.
What's a personal habit that helps you become better at what you do?
Weekly journaling. So actually sitting down and kind of mapping out what's my focus and what are kind of the big 3 things that I want to accomplish this coming week.
Oh, I like that one. And tell us, what's one book that you would recommend?
It doesn't have to do with Facebook marketing, but the best book I think I've ever read is called Mindset by Carol Dweck. It basically goes into whether you have a growth or a fixed mindset. And it's scary at times because you realize a lot of things about the way that you think and what maybe is holding you back.
Interesting. And last but not least, why should our tribe come back next week and listen to the main interview?
Well, because you're probably doing Facebook marketing wrong as far as how you're going to be successful in 2017.
Oh, how intriguing does that sound? I can't wait for next week's show. Thank you so much for joining us today, Scott, for the Pre-Core Quickfire 5.
Get ready for this week's bonus segment, your extra injection of information, education, and inspiration to strengthen your fitness business.
Tribe, Lynn Nieto is the wife of Augie Nieto and the voice of Augie's Quest. She's also a board member of the ALS Therapy Development Institute. Lynn, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, I'm really excited to have you on the show because it's not too long now until the bash for Augie's Quest coming up in March for URSA. So tell us, how long has the event been running?
It's been running great. We have a great committee made up of industry leaders, and they help us out. We couldn't do it without them. So we're excited. It's coming up on March 10th, Friday, the last evening of URSA. This year it's an 80s theme, and We've been trying to get quite a few of the committee members to send us pictures of themselves in their workout attire of the 80s, of which some of them are just absolutely hysterical with the big hair and the leg warmers and dolphin shorts.
I love that. We've all got those photos somewhere.
Sadly so.
Yeah. That sounds like so much fun. So tell us, what would we expect on the night?
It opens up with a cocktail party and a silent auction, moves into a very quick-paced program with a live auction telling a little bit about what we do. And we always have some really great entertainment. So we have some throwbacks from the 80s coming back for the entertainment, and always a fun dancing, casual evening.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I think I'm going to have to jump on straight away and purchase my ticket and then dig out my leg warmers and fluoro top. So that sounds fantastic, Lynn. So tell us, why is the Bash so important to Augie's Quest?
The Bash is our biggest fundraiser. It raises funds to fund research for ALS drug development. And without the fitness industry, we wouldn't be where we are today and having a promising treatment that will go into phase 1 trials within the next 12 months.
That's wonderful. And tell us, most importantly, how can our tribe purchase tickets?
Please go to our website, which is augiesquest.org. And it's AUGIES Quest. And go to the fundraising section and it will be under Bash.
I want to say a big thank you to Lynn for coming on the show, and to let you all know that even though the Bash is still a couple of weeks away, you can go online today and check out the online auction. It is happening right now. I've included the link in today's show notes, so you have plenty to choose from when it comes to supporting Augie's Quest. You can come along to the event on March 10th, or you can jump online and check out the auction, or you can do both. As I mentioned at the start of the show, I'm going to be coming all the way from Sydney. I will definitely be at the Bash. I cannot wait, and I would love to meet you guys there. So I hope to see you. That's all from me this week. I'm actually going to hand over to one of our former guests to finish off today's show, and I will see you next week.
Hi, I'm Sherry Pagato, and I was a fitness business podcast guest. You have been listening to another outstanding guest. If you know someone who could benefit from listening to the show, please share the show by email, Facebook, or Twitter, all possible on this week's show's notes. If you really want some tips, you'd better hit up my show. Trust me, it's an awesome show as I share my takeaways on developing exercise as a habit. Go to www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, and in the search bar, type my name, Sherry Pagato, P-A-G-O-T-O, in case it's not clear, and my show will pop up. That's this week's show, and Chantal will be back next week with another guest.
Great show this week that you should be suffering DOMs, delayed onset mind soreness, as you are overloaded and that's when your mind is strengthened. You and your business have been strengthened thanks to the amazing support of our premier sponsor, Active Management. Check out www.activemgmt.com.au only if you want to strengthen your business and your leadership. Don't forget, all today's links and notes are found at www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, where you can also subscribe and never miss a show and maybe win a prize. Next week is another incredible guest with Chantal, so get ready for more Fit Bizpiration.